4 days ago, the Brookings Institution published a report that every American needs to read. In 2024, the most recent year with complete data, 45.5% of U.S. households did not earn enough to cover their basic necessities. Not luxuries, not vacations, not restaurant meals, basic necessities, housing, food, healthcare, transportation, utilities. Nearly half of American households could not afford the fundamentals of modern life. And a $1,000 increase in the annual cost of living, less than $84 per month, would push another 3 million households over the edge. In the next 8 minutes, you are going to understand exactly what this data shows, why this is happening, and the specific steps that separate the households navigating this environment successfully from the ones falling further behind every month. This is the Vault Keeper. Let me start with the data, because the numbers are important, and they have not been presented clearly enough in the media coverage this week. New research from the Brookings Institution released this week describes affordability by comparing the rising costs of essentials against family incomes. By that measure, the report found that in 2024, 45.5% of U.S. households did not earn enough to cover their necessities. Scranton Times-Tribune. This is not a fringe finding from a small sample. Brookings researchers gathered household income data for every county in the United States and compared it against the actual cost of housing, food, childcare, healthcare, transportation, and essential utilities for different household types. This is the most comprehensive county-level affordability analysis published in recent years. The report also found that incomes have grown quickly between 2025 and 2026, but for higher-income families. Those households saw pay rise 6% this April compared to a year earlier, but the boost for lower earners was just 1.5%. Fort Morgan Times. That is the K-shaped economy in one data point. Higher-income households getting 6% raises, lower-income households getting 1.5% raises, while inflation across groceries, housing, utilities, and healthcare rises at the same rate for everyone. The math doesn't work for the bottom half, and it is getting worse, not better. Residential electricity costs have increased faster than earnings across much of the country, leaving customers paying about $40 more in December 2025, on average, than they did in December 2017. Gas prices have also risen sharply, with the national average growing by 1.0 per gallon since late February 2026. And it is not just coastal expensive cities. Affordability pressures are spreading beyond traditionally high-cost areas. Many previously low-cost regions, including parts of Atlanta, Chicago, Louisville, Winston-Salem, Columbus, Nashville, Western New York, South-Central Wisconsin, and Central Florida, are seeing costs for housing, healthcare, and groceries rise faster than in other areas. This is the point that most coverage misses. The affordability crisis is no longer concentrated in New York and San Francisco. It has spread to the mid-sized cities and towns that were affordable 5 years ago. The American who moved to Nashville or Columbus or Charlotte to escape coastal costs is now facing the same squeeze in a different city. Now let me show you the 5 specific costs that are driving this affordability breakdown, because understanding the mechanism is the first step to addressing it. Cost 1. Housing. 1/3 of the American middle class cannot afford necessities, and at least 20% of middle-class earners in every central metro area studied cannot afford to live in their own communities. The median American home now costs approximately $420,000. At a 6.5% mortgage rate on a conventional 30-year loan with a 20% down payment, the monthly payment is approximately $2,130 in principal and interest alone, before property taxes, insurance, or maintenance. To qualify for that mortgage under standard debt-to-income guidelines requires a gross annual income of approximately $85,000 to $90,000. The median household income in the United States is approximately $78,000. The median American household cannot comfortably qualify for a mortgage on the median American home. For renters, the picture is equally stressed. Median rent for a two-bedroom apartment nationally is approximately $1,850 per month. At the standard guideline of keeping housing costs below 30% of gross income, a household needs to earn approximately $74,000 per year to comfortably afford the median two-bedroom rental. The median American household earns $78,000, just barely above the threshold, before taxes, before all other expenses. Cost 2. Healthcare. In 2026, 250 million Americans will face health insurance premium increases far exceeding inflation, wage growth, and Social Security adjustments. Nearly 3 in 10 Americans, 29%, report delaying or going without medical care in the past year, including 37% of Hispanics, 33% of women, and 32% of Black Americans. Among adults, ages 18 to 29, nearly half, 49%, delayed or skipped medical care. Healthcare is now the second largest expense for most American households after housing. The average employer-sponsored family health insurance premium in 2026 is approximately $24,000 per year. Employees pay approximately 30% of that, roughly $7,200 per year or $600 per month in payroll deductions. That is before any out-of-pocket costs for deductibles, co-pays, or prescriptions. For a family on a $78,000 household income, the combined housing and healthcare cost alone can consume 50% or more of take-home pay. Cost 3. Food. Families of 4 in expensive metro areas spend over $1,000 per month on food alone, at a minimum. 1 in 3 Americans skipped a meal to save money, up from 1 in 4 earlier in the year. The USDA's Moderate Cost Food Plan, the benchmark for a middle-income family's grocery spending, estimates approximately $100 per month for a family of 4 in 2026. That is a 27% increase from the same benchmark in 2020. Wages have not grown 27% for most American households over the same period. The grocery bill is not getting smaller. Cost 4. Childcare. For households with young children, childcare is often the third largest expense after housing and food. The average cost of center-based childcare for an infant in 2026 is approximately $1,600 per month nationally, and significantly higher in major metro areas. That is $19,200 per year for one child before school age. For many dual-income households with young children, one partner's entire income goes to childcare. The net financial benefit of both parents working is near zero after childcare costs are accounted for. Cost 5. Transportation. Gas prices have risen sharply, with the national average growing by $1 per gallon since late February 2026. The average American household drives approximately 15,000 miles per year. At $4.12 per gallon and the national average fuel economy, that household spends approximately $2,200 per year on gasoline alone, up from approximately $1,600 before the Iran conflict began. Add car insurance, averaging approximately $2,400 per year, vehicle maintenance, and either a car payment or the periodic cost of vehicle replacement, and transportation is consuming $7,000 to $12,000 per year for most American households. Now here is the honest context that the Brookings data points toward, but most coverage does not address directly. 87% of Americans believe the U.S. is in a full-blown cost of living crisis. 78% said everything became more expensive in 2025. 46% expect it to get worse in 2026. 52% are struggling to pay bills like rent on time each month. And 50% say they cannot afford necessities like groceries. Hazleton Standard Speaker. Those numbers from a survey of 5,000 Americans align almost exactly with the Brookings institutional data. This is not a perception problem. The math genuinely does not work for nearly half of American households, and the response from both parties in Washington has been inadequate to the scale of the problem. The Brookings Affordability Report found nearly 38 million households would be able to get by if workers' wages rose by $10 per hour. But the federal minimum wage has been frozen at $7.25 an hour since 2009. Fort Morgan Times. That is 17 years without a federal minimum wage increase. The cost of everything has changed dramatically in 17 years. The federal floor on wages has not moved by a single dollar. Now let me give you the honest picture of what households that are successfully navigating this environment are doing differently. Not platitudes, specific behaviors with measurable impact. What works in a cost of living crisis? 4 specific strategies. Strategy 1. Track every dollar with ruthless specificity. The household that knows exactly where every dollar goes has decision-making power. The household that spends loosely and wonders where the money went has none. Nearly 30% of workers have relocated to lower-cost housing, and 28% have taken on debt to finance daily expenses. The households taking on debt for daily expenses are the ones without visibility into their spending. The ones relocating have made a deliberate trade-off with full awareness of the numbers. The tool is simple. Every bank statement, every credit card statement, every subscription categorized, totaled every month. Most people who do this exercise for the first time find between $200 and $400 per month in spending they cannot specifically account for and would not consciously choose if they were making the decision explicitly. That $200 to $400 per month is the margin that separates households building a small financial cushion from households going further into debt. Strategy 2. Attack housing cost as your highest leverage financial decision. Housing is typically 30% to 40% of total household spending. A $200 per month reduction in housing cost has a larger impact on financial stability than a $200 per month reduction in any other spending category because it is recurring, permanent, and affects every subsequent month. The households that relocated to lower-cost areas, the 30% cited in the data, made the highest leverage cost reduction available to them. Not everyone can or should move, but every household should calculate specifically what portion of their income goes to housing and what alternatives exist at different price points. Strategy 3. Build income before cutting expenses reaches diminishing returns. There is a floor on how much you can cut from a budget that is already covering only necessities. When housing, healthcare, food, transportation, and utilities are consuming 90% of your income, there is no discretionary category to eliminate. At that point, income growth is the only lever with significant remaining impact. That income growth can come from negotiating a raise, developing a marketable skill that commands higher pay, adding part-time income, or transitioning to a higher-paying field. The households navigating this environment most successfully are not just cutting, they are simultaneously building income while protecting what they already have. Strategy 4. Protect your credit score as a cost reduction tool. When the cost of everything is rising, the interest rate you pay on every debt matters more than it did when rates were low. A credit score of 760 versus 650 on a $350,000 mortgage saves approximately $65,000 to $100,000 over 30 years. A credit score of 760 versus 650 on a $25,000 car loan saves approximately $3,000 to $5,000 in interest over 5 years. Every debt you carry is more expensive at a lower credit score. In a cost of living crisis, the cost difference between a good and a great credit score is real money that compounds against you or for you every month. Here is the reality that the Brookings data points to honestly. The affordability crisis affecting nearly half of American households is not primarily a result of individual financial decisions. It is a structural problem rooted in the gap between wage growth and cost growth that has widened over the past decade. More than 40% of households were not able to afford what they needed almost every year from 2014 to 2024. This is not new. It is a decade-long trend that has accelerated. Scranton Times-Tribune. That structural reality does not mean individual households are powerless. It means the margin for financial error is smaller than it used to be. The strategies that worked in a low-cost environment with easy credit work less well in a high-cost environment with expensive credit. And the households that adapt their financial behavior to the actual environment they are operating in, rather than the environment that existed 5 years ago, are the ones that build resilience rather than accumulate debt. The Vault Keeper exists to give you the clearest possible picture of that environment and the most specific available guidance for navigating it. Not political commentary, not alarmism, just the data and the practical response. Drop a comment below. Can you comfortably cover your basic necessities right now? Be honest, you are not alone in whatever your answer is. Tell us what state you are watching from. I read every comment and I respond to every question directly. Subscribe to the Vault Keeper newsletter for daily financial intelligence before markets open. Every morning before the session starts, you get the information that matters in plain language with clear implications for your financial decisions. Link is in the description below. Subscribe, turn on notifications, data before price. The Vault Keeper.